Welcome back to a very special episode of the Life and Faith podcast. We're here today with our special guest, Dawn McCoy. Dawn, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Good. Happy to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, it's great. We do this podcast because we want to take this word, this ancient and awesome word, and make it relevant for today.
Right.
Right? We want to pointed out that, hey, it's not just a dusty book on your grandmother's shelf. It actually contains this awesome, life-changing, powerful foundation for which to stand on, right?
Yeah, relevant for today.
Relevant for today, right? We're putting it right into the living rooms of all the people, you know what I mean? It's not just your grandma's. We were talking at church the other day about how for some people the experience of church was going to grandma's house. Right? You went there and there was stuff on the walls and you didn't touch it. Right? But we have to make it like ours. We have to make it for today, for the people today. And so when I was not a believer, before I was a believer, I was a wayward kid, you know, and I say kid, but I mean like, you know, adult. And
20s, right?
Yeah, yep. And I knew you, Dawn. I knew you like when I was probably, I think around, I would guess like 19 or so is how old I was when we met.
Yeah, I think so, because I was starting to run a store when I met you, so yeah, I was in my 20s.
Okay, yeah, so
you were
around
probably
then.
in your early 20s too.
Yeah, and I think, and I know you were a committed by faith believer at that time in your life, right, when we had met.
Yes, I actually became a Christian when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that a bit, but I just wanted to give like a little bit of a preface for the situation. I did not know that you were saved when you were 4.
Yeah, very young.
Very young.
Yeah, my family has been a Christian family for a couple generations, so.
That's great. That's cool. It's a legacy to leave, hey?
Definitely.
But my point was that you were a believer at that time, and you were an example to me. And there are a handful of people, but I will say that if we talk about living as a by faith believer, I think there's a difference between living as a by faith believer and being occupying a pew. Would you agree with that, Josh?
Yeah, definitely. It's there's many people that can have a head knowledge of it, but there's a difference when it becomes a heart knowledge of those things.
Yeah, when you're sort of actively pursuing your faith or sort of actively pursuing the Lord and praying and being involved in stuff. And I'm not discrediting anybody who isn't doing that. I'm just making the point about I wasn't like anti-Christian or anything like that, but just at that time I was sort of like say a ship lost at sea a bit. Yeah. And so I met you and later on came to know the Lord. Right? And after probably a bucket of prayer.
There were a few.
A few
buckets.
A few buckets. Maybe like, 5, 20, 30 gallons. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But anyway, our friendship has continued all these years, and I'm very grateful for it. But when we thought about what are we going to do with this podcast, what is the point of this, what are we doing with it? And I thought you're a perfect example of somebody who is committed to your faith, and walking it in such a way where other people really aren't. You're a born and bred entrepreneur, right?
My family was also entrepreneurs. My dad, he had a couple of businesses. He was the one that started it because my grandpa worked for General Motors. So he was always got to get a real job. But there's just some people that they got to go do their own thing, and that was my family. That was your family, but it was you too, like yeah.
Because you didn't always. I mean, we met in the context of I worked for you at another company.
Yes.
So talk about your background and sort of how you started that entrepreneurial journey, or how you sort of made that first step out.
Well, I worked for a corporation, and corporations, they tell you, oh, you get all the freedom to do this stuff, and then, there's the security of having a job, but there was also all of the restraints
Mm.
of, you know, you can't run the business the way you'd like to, and then when it doesn't go the way that they want it to, then you get in trouble for it because you you didn't get the success that you wanted, but you also weren't allowed to do the things to make it successful. So I decided, you know what? It's time to try this for myself. So I opened up my own business. I have my own restaurant now.
And
It's
you've had it for...
We're going on to almost 17 years.
Wow,
So
that's great.
it's an exciting adventure. Every day is, there's always something crazy going on. When I first started it, I was hopeful to get enough money to put in a gas tank so I could drive back home.
Mm.
But now it pays the bills, and it's started up a couple other businesses. So
And all the while maintaining this ongoing relationship with the Lord.
there'd be no way to do it without him. So as an entrepreneur, you don't have the security of a paycheck. You don't have the security of, I'm going to have this much money by the end of the month. You have bills that come in every month, and they are very regular. So you
Like
just,
clockwork.
Oh, I know. They come in on the exact same day every month. But you don't always know if the customers are going to come in and if they're going to order the right stuff so that you don't end up throwing everything away, or if one of your pieces of your equipment are going to break. So all of that you have to trust God for. It really does show you that you are not in control. Because you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea how much money there's going to be, and you might think that you're going to end up with more month than money. But it's never happened that he has not provided for every single thing that I needed.
From the roof to the basement, right? I mean, literally, like,
Literally.
and everything in between, you know?
Literally.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you say that being a faithful believer, how would you say that that has guided, not just like, I get the point you're making about provision, but what I mean is, in terms of day to day, how does your faith sort of play a role in your decision making, or how do you sort of navigate the dark waters of, like you say, like, are people going to come in?
Yeah, there's the dark waters of, are we going to make enough money? And then there's also, there can be some shadiness in business. And you always have the opportunity to take the road that's going to make it look good, and it might cut these corners. It's not legal. And, you're like, oh, if I do that, everything will be fine. And you go, oh, I could stop paying my tithe. I don't have to give anymore. I could use that money to pay my rent. But in the long run, God's not going to bless that, because you have to be able to trust him to take care of it. The businesses are not my source of income. God is my source of income, and he just sends it through the businesses. Yeah.
That's great. Can you share a specific experience? You don't have to say personal details or whatever, but an experience when that was tested. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I can give a few examples. So there'll be times when the bank account is down, and I know that there's some taxes, for example. They're due every month, the sales tax, and I know about how much it's going to be. And there'll be some, maybe I'll have some outstanding invoices that haven't come in yet. They haven't come in for a while. I'm like, I'm just going to write those off. They're not going to show up. So this happened just this week, actually. I had a big one that was in October. It is December now. It's almost Christmas time. And I'm like, they're just not going to pay. It's just not going to happen. And I need to pay these electric bills. And then this past Saturday, they walked right in and they handed me a check.
Wow.
And thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
There it is.
Praise God.
And that happens so many times. Or you'll be looking at something and it's going to be really expensive, an expensive fix, or you need a piece of equipment, and then all of a sudden someone says, hey, you know what, I've got this and I'm not using it. I'm going to bless you with it. And it's what you've been praying for. It shouldn't amaze me. Well, I guess it should amaze me. It shouldn't surprise me, but it always amazes me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always on time.
Always on time. Very rarely early, and never ever late.
Never ever late. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when I first became a believer, we used to have little conversations like that about
Yep.
always on time, never, rarely early, and never late.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the rarely early part that I wouldn't mind a few more earlies just so I could plan, but that's not the way he works.
That's how it really grows your faith, right? It's the
Yes.
rarely early. You're like, oh, it'd be so much easier if I could have this buffer here, but yeah.
No, buffers, that teaches you to trust in your buffer.
Right.
He
right.
wants us to trust in him.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So you have more than a business here. Can you talk about some of the opportunities you've had to bless others, or opportunities that have come out of this experience where someone has blessed you? Or do you know what I mean? Like, maybe we could talk about Thanksgiving, or we could talk about, and I know you don't do those things to receive accolades, but just to give him the glory. Some of those.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's more
Right.
than a business, right?
I think of it as my ministry. So for Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday ever. And I had a very large family, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles. Everybody always got together the Saturday, either before or after, whichever one was closest. And we would celebrate Thanksgiving. We do the same for Christmas, too. But my grandparents passed away. And it seems like after the patriarchs passed, then the family just kind of drifts apart and everybody goes and does their own thing. Well, I missed having a big Thanksgiving, so I decided I would just invite everybody in the community. The first year we did about 200 meals, and we do routinely, we've been doing it for like 5 years, I think now. When it was COVID, we did like 500 meals. That was a crazy year. Yeah.
And those were all delivery at that time, or did you have people in? Or
Now, for the COVID time, those were either delivery or, pass them out the door. Pickups. Nobody hung around, really. But this year we did 250. There was actually quite a few other places that were doing meals, so that was really nice. But to be able to offer someone a home-cooked meal on a holiday when they would normally just be sitting at home eating frozen dinners, it's the way it makes them feel is amazing. I'll tell you a story about a lady that got a delivery. So she was an older woman, and when the driver came to her house, she was just sitting at her table all alone in a very meager apartment. And she was so thankful to have someone bring her some hot, good food, because she had no family that was, going to be there. Literally just sitting there by herself.
Wow.
So that one, always, I think about that one every year, because she would have had nothing.
Yeah, and that to you is a blessing as much as it is to that other person.
It is. It's more blessed to give than receive.
Right.
So the first year, I really didn't want anyone to like give me money. I didn't even tell anyone that we were doing it until like the week of, and then I said, "Hey, we're giving out free meals," and that way I figured no one will give us, any monetary anything, because I was adamant about that. But God kind of worked on my heart about that, because He says, these people want to be part of the blessing. So now we let people donate if they want. But, and some people, like we have one girl, she grows a turkey every year with 4-H. Yeah. It is a giant turkey, I'm telling you. It barely fits in the oven every year. Yeah. It's like a 35-pound turkey.
Oh, man, yeah.
It's huge. And, it's farm raised, so it just wanders around during the year, it's like, yay, I'm going to be dinner. But I send her a picture of the turkey every year after I cooked it. She brings it in herself and hands it over and says, "Happy Thanksgiving." So allowing those people to participate in the blessing is huge, because it blesses them too.
Indeed, yeah. And you get a whole set of volunteers throughout that time. It's like you have your regular people, your regular employees, and some of them show up.
Some of them show up. So the employees are encouraged to come in. I, on purpose, do not pay them. They have to volunteer their time because it's part of the experience to give up your holiday to bless other people. So if they want to come in, I encourage them to. If they don't, that there's no shame in that. They don't have to. Some of them come in and hang out for a while and get some turkey, and have a piece of pie in between all their family festivities. And then as far as people that volunteer, that's another God thing. I have no idea who's going to show up. So, people will say, "Oh, yeah, we'll be there." And then I'm like, I don't count on them until I see the whites of their eyes. So, I'll be like, well, we'll see who's going to drive and who's going to, serve and who's going to cook. And he always brings all the people that I need. I never have to worry about it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it was like a whole separate group of volunteers come in. If you come in on a regular weekday, you see the employees buzzing around. And then if you come in on that day, it's like a whole separate crew of people. There's some overlap, but not everybody is the same. And you're like, who's that guy? And then it's just like this one guy who cooks this, or this other guy who cooks that, or whatever. Or ladies and guys too, but you know what I mean? It's like,
right. Yeah. I just go, I need someone to scoop up the mashed potatoes. Someone needs to make gravy.
And drivers, and all
and
that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. It's a fun thing to watch, and it's a fun thing to participate in. It's 2 days of prep, but it's more prep than that. But
2 days.
I meant like
it's like a week of prep.
Well, I know what you're doing. I meant what the rest of us have to do. No.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it can be demanding, just being an entrepreneur. And so how do you balance that demand with your commitments to your faith? How do you sneak in prayer time in places, or what do you do to sort of keep that? Because you're active in your church too, right? I mean, you're not just...
Yeah. Guess what? I volunteer in a kitchen. So there's... so how do we sneak that in? It's not really a sneak in. And you can ask the employees; they'll tell you I'm crazy. They'll say oh, Dawn's over there talking to somebody. So it's a lifestyle. I don't sneak in a prayer, I guess I'd say. It never really stops. I don't start the whole "Dear God in heaven." It's an ongoing conversation. So I don't...
Pray without ceasing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pray without ceasing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So it's like, oh, I need help with this one. Or, maybe there's a trying customer and I'm like, oh, God, help me with that one. Because I really want to, say something I shouldn't. And,
What?
yeah, no.
Lord set a gate upon my mouth.
Exactly.
Not to say what I want to say.
Biting my tongue right off. No. But, yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. And I'll be like, I'll need help with this. And then he will send me the answer. So, yeah, it never really stops.
So are there specific practices or routines that you incorporate into your life to sort of stay grounded or stay committed?
Yes. So, it is an ongoing conversation. I like to always be conscious of, the fact that he never leaves us or forsakes us. Then I do devotions. I have a devotional book I read in the mornings before I head out. I have about a 10-minute commute, and that's like a prayer time. I spend that time just talking with him about the day, see how, I don't know what's going to happen, but he's got it all planned out. So, that's a nice little time to get ready to go on the adventure of the day. And then I have the same commute back, so it's a good time to go, I messed up on this one, and help me next time to not do that. And, it's, and then of course there's a service on Sunday. Fortunately, my church has a nice sound system and a great TV downstairs because I don't always get upstairs to the service. I'm in the kitchen. And they put it all on Facebook, so I can also watch it later, too. And I do spend a lot of time when I'm doing prep or out shopping or doing things for the business. I like to listen to a lot of podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This one,
Podcast.
obviously.
I hear
About
those
faith.
are popular or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, obviously this one, and,
Well, I'm a subscriber,
Oh, okay. All right.
There you
Well, how do you... That's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, why? That brings up an interesting point. You said, like, you have a restaurant, just one, right? Or how many?
Yeah. How many are there?
There's one restaurant, one bakery, and then I dabble in other stuff too. I got some real estate stuff, and just gonna be. We're about ready to move our restaurant into a bigger location because we've actually outgrown the one we're in. So that's also a blessing from God.
Oh, nice.
Indeed.
I was about to ask, is there anything that you got that you're hoping to move forward to? So there's that, but
Yeah.
are you looking to expand it to 3 or ever or something like that? Or do you think 2 is a good stop?
I mean,
don't,
one is enough for one person.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I don't think that I want to open up another location necessarily. I don't. You never know.
Yeah.
God might have that in my plans. He'll let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it because you're like, if it's meant to be, then he'll make a way.
He makes a way when there is no way.
Before I went on that a bit about, because we're talking about this one business, but it's really not one business. It's really like, at least you said you have real estate, so I'd call that 3.
Yep.
Because you have the bakery, and then you have the restaurant, and then obviously the real estate takes up your time as well. But my question really was, why food?
I really enjoy eating. And I like good food.
It's a great reason.
I think so. I think God gives every person their own special gift, and they are the ones that can do that gift the best. No one else can do it any better than they can. I like to think everyone is a 10. They just don't know what they're a 10 in yet if they are not succeeding. Cooking is easy for me. I can just kind of throw things together, and it's pretty much effortless. It's almost like it's not hard at all. So I believe he gave me a gift in that area, putting flavors together, and it just comes up with ideas that I'm like, oh, it just pop in my head. So I believe that's the gift that he gave me, and I believe we all need to really work on the gifts that he gave us, because, like I said, no one else can do them better than you can, because that's your special gift.
What advice or encouragement would you offer for like an aspiring entrepreneur seeking to live their life by faith?
I'm glad you put that last part in, because an aspiring entrepreneur without faith and without God is kind of a scary thing, I think, because there is no security, really. There's no... you have to like forge your own path as an entrepreneur. So a lot of time in prayer and seeking God's will, because he'll tell you if you ask him, and he has a really good sense of humor too.
He must.
Yes. Yeah. If you ask him, he'll tell you where you should go and what you should do, and he won't tell you so that you can make a decision to do it. He will tell you once you have decided that you are going to follow him no matter where he tells you to go. So if you're just playing at the whole game of let's see what God might want me to do so that I can decide if that's where I want to go or if I want to go my own way, he's not going to waste your time or his, because he wants committed people. And I know I'm kind of speaking for God, but it says this in the Bible.
Yeah, it's true.
He wants people that are committed to do what he has planned for them, and his plans are better than any plans that I would have for myself. I'll be much happier following his plans than if I just kind of randomly came up with something on my own. Even if I thought that was going to make me happy, and what he had planned was not what I wanted to do, I will find that his plan will be the best one.
I feel like that's a scary path too, though. Don't you think that's a scary path? Like, okay, stepping out in faith, that's got its own fears, I guess you'd say, wouldn't you? Would you agree? Or
Absolutely. And as a baby Christian, when I was not as I guess when I hadn't had so much experience as I have now, the devil is really good at deceiving, and he will come as an angel of light, and everything he says is a lie. But when you're in the middle of it, you'll be like, oh, maybe that's it. So there's a time where you got to figure out what the voice of God sounds like, because he'll try to persuade you that he's the way, even though it's not the right one. That part, you need a lot of experience in, and you're going to make wrong choices. It just happens. But I feel like God already is there. He already knows what choices you're going to make. He's already made provisions for that. Because he's made the way. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So even though you make these bad choices, which I have made my fair share of, he already knew I was going to make those choices, and he already prepared the way ahead of me to fix or make those choices become a blessing to me instead of a curse.
That sounds like a huge part of entrepreneurship, is getting past the hurdle of not being terrified of making mistakes. That's something I can resonate with, because I know I struggle with that, but that's got to be when you're stepping out, by yourself to do that.
It's you'll make mistakes. There's just no real way around it. We're humans. And not perfect, not till we get to heaven.
And then in that position, it can be kind of scary, because it's like, well, this kind of rises and falls on me because I'm owning this. I'm running this. I can't blame anybody else. It's just,
There's nobody to blame but me.
yeah, yeah. That's tough.
Yeah, but if you are committed to, you're gonna make it work
Mm-hmm.
because it's God's plan, and His plans never fail.
Yeah, that's good.
Still, I would, when I think about taking that step and saying, we talked about this at men's group at Bear Cow this year, and I can talk a little bit about how you influenced that experience in my life. But we talked to this year at men's retreat about how some people need to come to know the Lord. Some people need to, though they know the Lord, commit. And other people need to say, I'm ready to go where you want to go, be who you want to be, say what you want me to say, do what you want me to do. And when I think of doing that, I think if I really jump in with both feet, He'll give me something I'm afraid to do.
Always.
Right?
That's how we grow, though. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like if He was just going to give you something that you can handle, then you're not trusting in Him, and you can't give Him the glory for it. So you can take the glory and you're like, I did this because, But if it's something that is way beyond what you're capable of, and it is successful, you have no choice but to give Him the glory for it.
Yeah, both the more fearful you are about stepping out and doing something, the more glory He gets. And I feel like, at least in my own experience, it's more rewarding because you knew all the fear and trepidation you had going into it, but God getting you through it, it's just so much more rewarding.
And the more times that you step out in faith, you get more experience on that journey. And then God never lies. He's never wrong. And we just have to remember that the devil always lies, and he's always wrong.
Right.
It's hard sometimes when you're in the middle of it, though, to go, yeah, God is always right. He's never one time let me down or failed. Never one time.
Yeah.
When you think about how entrepreneurs are, or sort of how the world is, or sort of how business practices are, has there ever been a time when you said, I know that's what the world would do, but faith dictates that I do it this way. This is not the way the world would do it, but I'm doing it His way. Like, do you know what I'm asking? Like a specific example where you had to kind of go against the maybe make an unconventional decision?
Oh, yeah. So actually starting the business was pretty much an unconventional decision because it was in a downturn. And there was not a good time to open a brand new business because people didn't have a lot of money. But God doesn't usually prompt me to do things that are what conventional wisdom would say. So also we purchased this building just a couple months ago. Well, interest rates are high and prices are up, so why would I do it now? Because I felt that it was God saying, this is where you're going and this is what you need to do. I'm like, okay. And He will make the way right, even though it's like, well, that was kind of, a bad timing on your part. He kind of, I think it's part of the sense of humor that He has. He doesn't want people to think, oh, it was just a good luck. No, it wasn't good luck. It was God, and it was blessing. Right. Yeah.
Chooses the wise things of the world to shame the world, and the foolish things of the world to. I know I'm butchering.
Confound the wise.
Confound the wise. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew where you were going with
that.
Yeah.
It was a slow mover, but it got there.
Yep.
So, do you find yourself expressing gratitude on a regular basis for everything? I mean, I know we've talked about it, but it's like, do you find yourself just going, wow, I can't believe that it actually... Do you know what I mean? Like, do you ever
Yeah.
stop and smell the roses, or do you sort of...
All the time.
Mhm.
I will come into my restaurant and nobody else is here, or even at the end of the night when everyone else is gone, and I'll just look around, and I'm not even in the new place yet, and I'll just be like, wow, or I'll get that big order that I needed to pay the rent or to do whatever it was, a new equipment or something that broke down that needs to be repaired, and I'll just be like, thank God,
Mhm. Yeah.
because an attitude of gratitude, God really does bless the people that have an attitude of gratitude. He does not really like the whining and complaining like the children of Israel with the murmuring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
not his favorite.
Yeah.
I've been doing it so long, though.
Yeah, the entrepreneur doesn't say that when the going gets tough, let's go back to Egypt. You stick with it.
No, I don't think I ever go back to Egypt.
Yeah.
Not back to another job.
Yeah.
Or punch a clock.
That's. I feel like
No,
the
ever.
easy connection there is Egypt is like the corporations, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Not that there's anything wrong with doing that or having that in your life or whatever, if you grow where you planted kind of thing, but I just couldn't see...
Go where God's called you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, not that one way is right over another, but it's like, it's cool to me. It's admirable, and it's cool to be a person who sees that and says, no, I don't have to while away the hours at a place that takes my energy and makes me angry or makes me fearful or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, that's cool. That's,
I think some people too, that's where they're supposed to be, though. They're supposed to work, well, not while away the hours and be angry, but I mean, I have employees, and they're happy. Well, they seem to be anyway. They say they are, so hopefully they are. But yeah, so working for someone who is a good boss too is important. Because I do need people to work in my businesses. Otherwise, I can't do it alone. It's a team effort, and there are people that don't want to do the things that I do because I do take a lot of risks, and it is not a secure thing, and that's totally fine. God's got plans for their lives too, and fortunately, I get to cross their path and tell them about Him.
Yeah.
you get a lot of unique opportunities.
I do get a lot of unique opportunities, and sometimes I might be a little extra pushy. I try not to be, but I love the time when they come and ask me. They'll ask me questions about their life, and I'll give them advice, and the advice always includes God because that's my life. They asked me for my advice, and my advice includes God. So there's been a lot of people, employees, even customers that I've grown to have a relationship. They come in once a week, and they'll ask something, and or they'll be having a tough day, and you can just bless them with a word from God. It is a very rewarding thing.
It's so cool when you are into the Word and you know it intimately, or you have it, you're cultivating it in your life, and then a situation comes up in your life where something you've been thinking about or meditating about or praying about, and you're like, you have that particular, that those two things connect. Like, you see somebody and they say something that you go, you know what, I was just reading about this.
It's not a coincidence.
It is as if this faith matters. It is as if this faith is relevant today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Every day. Yeah. It's not a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. There's no such thing. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and you get so many cool chances to just because you're obviously not encumbered by corporate rules or anything here. So if the Spirit so moves you, it's time to say, you know what?
Yeah.
Here's a principle of truth about that particular situation.
Yeah, and that is really freeing because there's nobody going, "Hey, TikTok, you're not working. You're talking." Or you're not allowed to talk about God at work. Yeah. Oh, well, I can talk about whatever I want. I own the place.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you get that kind of freedom too. Yeah. I just couldn't imagine you, knowing you personally. I couldn't imagine how you would ever, how restrictive or how, I don't want to say depressed, but like how downhearted you'd be if you had to be in that situation again where somebody was controlling your every move and saying when you had to be where and when you couldn't be and all this stuff. It'd just be too much for you, right? I mean, you're just naturally where you belong now, right? Would you say?
Absolutely. It's funny because I was just talking to my boyfriend about that a couple days ago. I felt very constricted and very, I guess, in a box or in a cage. I always felt like when I was working for the corporations that my every move was scrutinized, and it just was. I'm not sure which word I'm trying to come up with here, but it is very freeing to be able to be my own boss. And I am a motivated person, so it's, some people will be like, "Oh, you're just lazy." Well, you can't really be lazy if you're going to, be your own business owner. Yeah. But yeah, there's nothing more freeing than that. The security part is there's no security, basically. But that I will gladly trade that for the freedom to be able to do what I believe God has for me to do.
That's an interesting point because security, it does kind of come down to, faith, right? It's like you kind of can you have the two things at the same time? I don't really know. You know what I mean? Because I think security right? Really, it's like the world
it
brings
on the view.
Say again?
It depends on the viewpoint, because from the world, they would say, well, you don't have much security. But, in God, you have all the security you need, at least to get through. Sometimes it's just getting through that day, right? So you may not have, like, all the man standards, like having all this hedged up just so that you can be rich and wealthy and all those things. But it's a security from God's point of view, right? There's a different economy that God operates on than man does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man's security is more like, having money in the bank and your house is paid for, and you got a steady job, and you have health insurance and a 401k, and God's security is my rod and my staff will comfort you. I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. I quote that one like every day. That's God's standards of security. I will never leave you or forsake you. It's just a different economy, I guess you'd say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, what I was going to get at before was that the security that the world would call security often isn't security. You hear all the time about people whose retirements are wiped out and they have to tear tickets at a theater or work at a dog food factory or something, in their retirement years, in their golden years, because they trusted in this security, and then it just got the rug pulled out from under them,
Right. Yep.
So really, in a way, this is kind of more secure than that, because now you have this experience, and if it all ended today and God started another chapter tomorrow,
I'd be just fine. He's got good plans for me.
That's security, huh?
Yep.
That's the security.
Secure in the Lord.
So what do you? I asked this of a pastor yesterday, but thought it was an interesting question to pose to you. What are you spending the most amount of your time doing that you are least excited about? What about this journey is sort of like, if you had to say something is a nail in your foot keeping you from stepping forward, is there anything that you're just like, I'm not excited about this part of it? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's a tough question because I try to find some kind of joy or enjoyment in everything, even if it's something I really don't like. I have to say, the thing that I dislike the most is prep work.
Oh, I thought you were going to say taxes.
Oh, and I have a viewpoint on taxes. They're a necessary evil, but
Yeah.
if I'm okay, so no, as a task or as a concept?
I just meant generally this lifestyle of being an entrepreneur day in, day out, 24/7 kind of thing. I'm sure you take time for yourself, but I mean, like, and this lifestyle, because it's not just really something you're doing, it's something that you are.
Right. Yeah, you don't just go to be an entrepreneur and then go home and be a yeah, it is a lifestyle. It pretty much is 24/7. The balance. So you said, you take time for yourself. Well, that part is something that I do need to work on, and I've been doing better with it. There's times where your work will consume every waking minute, and you can spend all of your day working and all of your night working, and then have no time for yourself. So the balance, that part, being able to take some time and go, you know what? I'm gonna go on a little day trip and I'm gonna go do something I really enjoy doing, like spend some time with my horses or go out on the kayak, or, something that's turn off the phone and it'll be waiting for me when I get back. And if it's too much of, if it's too big, God will take care of it while I'm gone.
Yeah. Would you say that is something that has come because that your ability to step away has come from all the years of experience? Or would you say, maybe again talking about people who are just getting started, that is something they should prioritize early on? Or is it like, do you get what I'm saying? It's like work morning, noon, and night until you can step away. Or would you say prioritize stepping away in the early days as well?
So I think you need a little bit of stepping away in the early days. You do have to. It's like a baby, babies need more attention. So a young business is going to need more attention than an established one with all your systems in place. But you still need to be able. God said he created the world in 6 days and he rested on the seventh day. So he does want us to take some time to rest and some time for ourselves. And if you don't, you can get burnout, and then that's not going to help your business either.
Yeah.
So.
Would you say you were prioritizing that before and you're getting better about it now even then, or you just weren't at all and you're just...
There were some times where I didn't prioritize it at all, and I worked 7 days a week. And I wouldn't recommend that.
No.
Yeah.
No. Mostly, though, that was more of the time when I was working for the corporation. I always say, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And I don't always see what I do as work. It's a mission and a calling, and it has a purpose. So, yes, I do step away, and do some stuff, but also I don't feel like it's work as much as I did when I worked for the corporations.
Yeah, I wanted to say this earlier, but I really love the idea of food bringing people together, because when you work in food, I don't know, like different people, like they may say, well, I enjoy food, or I love food, or I like food. I'm personally like, I love food. I love good food. And I just love the idea of bringing people together, but also adding the faith element to it, because they're going to see a difference in how a business is run. They're going to see a difference in the people that they interact with. If you think about it, there's a lot of great things that happen in the Bible, and there was food in there somewhere. Like whether somebody's making food, I just feel like it's a great way to bring people, and it's shown all throughout the Bible, and it still works today, right?
It's like, so, we're feeding their body and God's feeding their spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many times it's tied to celebration, and I mean, it really is something that brings everybody together. I mean, everybody can find some type of food that they all.
I just love the part where the messengers come to Abraham and he's like, I'm going to cook us some food. And then, he's sitting there, like, how cool would that be? Just sit down with, these heavenly beings and eat some food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're probably thinking, that's what you do when you're on Earth. You just eat food. Yeah.
Yeah, it's makes people, tears down walls, cuts across all the division and stuff like that. And I mean,
I've had great conversations with people over food, so it's a great way of fellowshipping. Yeah,
that makes me think, you must have seen iteration. You must see how the world is going throughout your time, and sort of you've kind of had a cool role because you've seen. I mean, you've been in running this business for 17 years. I mean, the world was a completely different place 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had this kind of constant in your life, and sort of you must have seen the whole thing just spin completely up on its head, in many ways, right? Not just, talking about food bringing people together.
Yeah.
Yeah, during COVID, people weren't supposed to come together. Well, that was another chance. It was another test. I didn't actually shut down, and the dining room was still mostly open to anybody who wanted to come fellowship, because separating people, people need to come together and fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
So we had signs that would say, faith and fellowship. We're allowed to do this because it's, our faith is here. Like, you'd be able to come to a church, not that we're a church, but, that was our way of saying, hey, we're going to still do this. And we had a couple of visits from some officials, and I said, look, these people don't have any place to go. Some of them are homeless. It's cold outside. I'm not going to kick them out. I was like, I don't know. You can come back tomorrow, but it'll be the same way. And they said, well, we'll be back tomorrow. But they never showed back up. And I was like, nope, God's going to take care of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be the most challenging sort of experience in terms of where your faith is tested and unconventional decision was made to just say.
Yeah, that I had some pushback from a couple of people that are working here at the time. They're like, are we really going to do this? And I was like, yes, we are. And they're like, okay. So, and there were some people who were like, I'm not coming in because I'm scared. I'm like, that's all right. It's no big deal. I'll be here. Yeah. The health department visited me a couple of times. I never had to worry about the law enforcement because the sheriff came in and had lunch all the time. So that worked out real well for me.
Yeah, I love our sheriff.
Yeah.
But my family benefited several times on several different occasions from coming in here because it was one of the only places open during that time.
Right.
And I was like, we just need to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And, of course, having a young family with 4 kids at the time, we couldn't afford to go out a lot, but I was like, my wife was like, I think we can afford to go out somewhere, today or tomorrow or something like that. And they're like, where do you want to go? I'm like, well, first of all, one of the only places left is here.
Right.
That's open. And second of all, I wanted to support what you were doing because, you were taking a chance. I could tell that even as, somebody, eating here. So.
Yeah, we had a lot of support. There were, of course, there's always going to be people that are like, how could you do this, And We just smiled and said, "You don't have to come in."
Yeah.
We try to, as I say, kill them with kindness. But most of the people were supportive, and most of the community was supportive, and they really were thankful that there was a place that they could come and not have to be stuck in their house, and not be afraid to go out, because a lot of people were just afraid that if they went out, there were times when they said, "Oh, if you're not if it's not an emergency, you can't be on the road," type deal. They were just afraid to come out of their house at all. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also had the blessing of it not becoming national news.
Yes.
And it not becoming a complete circus.
That's because we're just blessed.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm saying. It's
God
like
kept us sheltered in that regard.
kept you going,
Mm-hmm.
kept you supported,
Yep.
but also kept the wolves.
Kind of flying under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yep.
Well, I know there were churches too who were like, "Hey, we're still meeting, but please don't tell anybody that."
Yeah.
Because we don't really want the attention.
Yeah.
That kind of attention brings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now that it's in the rearview mirror, you can say, well, we were supported through it, but you wouldn't want to be like, a talking head on a 24-hour news channel going, "I just wanted to help the homeless,"
Yeah.
And that wasn't the heart behind it. It wasn't political. It was, we are being suppressed.
Yeah.
And our freedoms are being revoked. So, no, we're not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
Because that's like if we lose our freedoms, they're going to take away our freedom to worship God and to serve the way that we want to. And I'm not going to let that start in my town.
But, before that, I would say, and just maybe you would agree with this, but I think before that, you weren't super politically minded. Wouldn't you say? Or
No, and I still would say I'm not politically minded.
Freedom minded.
Freedom minded, yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
would
you
go
know what I
more
meant.
freedom
Like,
minded.
yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I meant. Like
Yeah.
we never had a conversation about freedoms and stuff like that, as I
Yeah.
recall. Before that,
Right.
it brought it to the forefront of this conversation of
Yeah.
like, are we gonna let this happen, or are we?
Yeah.
What are we gonna?
Yeah.
How are we gonna respond to this incredibly unprecedented time?
Right.
Yeah, you can almost view it as what an opportunity, right? Because we were in unprecedented times, and what we did during that time set a precedent for future scenarios that could come about. And so you being in the position to have a business and to stay open, that's huge. If it was one or two, but the more people that refuse to shut down and will stay open, it just sets a good precedent, like you're saying, for not having our future or our freedoms just dismantled in the
Yeah.
future.
Definitely.
I always said during that time too that I was grateful to. I would always try to remind myself, or try to, in prayer, just say like, "Thank you, Lord, for employment in a time when other people are
Right.
Yeah.
they don't have it, or they're looking for it, or whatever."
Yeah, a
Because
lot
there
of
were a
people
lot of
didn't
people that
have-
didn't survive. Their businesses didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know you talked earlier about sort of it's his story, it's his book that he's writing, and you don't necessarily know what the next chapter is. But if you sort of look forward to things, what are some aspirations you have, or what are sort of like, where do you see this going, or where do you feel like? I mean, obviously you said you have a new business or new building.
Yes.
You have enough businesses for 1.5 times yourself. So what are you gonna? You know what I mean? Do you have any aspirations or anything you want to talk about in terms of goals, or where this thing's headed?
I had someone the other day say something about where is the next chapter going to go to? Are you going to buy more buildings, or are you going to do more stuff? And as far as that goes, right now we're going to get our new building all ready and up and running. And if there is an opportunity to purchase other buildings and offer employment. One of my goals is to be a employer of the citizens of this town, to give them a fair wage, a good place to work, and also be able to provide quality products, so they don't, they feel like they're making a difference in the world. They're not just going and punching a clock. They are providing a service and giving the community something it needs. So if there's an opportunity for other businesses or growth, because we're expanding, so we're going to need more employees to cover the restaurant. That's definitely one of my future visions. There's also some, housing issues that are in this town. It's kind of like I think that's something that's kind of going in multiple towns around. There's kind of like a housing shortage. So if we can also provide housing in our buildings as well, because the new building has apartments upstairs, but be able to provide people with a quality place to live at a not too exorbitant price, but enough to pay the bills, so that is definitely something that I would like to continue. I don't, as far as like down in the future, I'm not going to be running around cooking everybody's food when I'm 70, 80 years old. So that is the goals and the plans that I have right now. But you never know. God has other ideas sometimes, and He changes things around. So until He's got something else for me, that's kind of where my direction is headed right now.
Well, that's great. Is there anything that you would want, if you had to just say one thing, we'll kind of wrap it up with this. Is there anything that you just want people to know, or any message that you have, or if you had just one chance to reach somebody and say one thing, do you have anything like that sticks out?
Oh my. One thing that I would like to say to, and I tell as many people as will listen, life is a journey, and you need to enjoy the adventure. It's like, that's like my montage, I guess, my motto. It's not going to be perfect because we are humans, but the plan is a good plan from God, and if you follow Him, you're going to have a wild adventure, and you're just going to need to enjoy it all the way through. Don't stress over it, because it's all small stuff, and it's not really that big of a deal to Him. And at the end of your life, you get to go to heaven and spend the rest of your life with God in heaven. And, I mean, what better journey can that be? Mm-hmm. I can't think of a better journey than that.
You've been listening to the Life and Faith podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay up to date on all our episodes, like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.